In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and upon those in the tombs bestowing life. المسيح قام من بين الأموات ووطئ الموت بالموت ووهب الحياة للذين في القبور. Amen. Good evening, everyone. Good to see your faces. Today, the plan is to go through the post-Paschal Sundays, or the post-Easter Sundays. As you know, we have a preparatory period before Holy Week, which is called Lent, and we have Sundays, few Sundays assigned during Lent to specific parables or specific saints. And we do have the same concept for the Sundays after Pascha, after Easter. If you remember those 2 Sundays that went by since Pascha, like the 2 previous Sundays, we celebrated on the first one, the first Sunday after Pascha, we celebrated the feast. It's called the Sunday of Thomas, or Thomas Sunday, Ahad Tuma. And then this past Sunday, it's named after the myrrh-bearing women, the Sunday of the myrrh-bearing women, Ahad Hamilat al-Tib. But also in it, we learned that we commemorate also 2 major saints in the church. The first one is Saint Joseph of Aramathia, this rich man who was a secret disciple of Christ, and offered his tomb, his prepared tomb for Christ, so Christ does not get buried some random place or some bad place. And the other person, the other saint, is Saint Nicodemus. Saint Nicodemus, if you're aware of, in one of the readings, we read about a high rank clergy, Jewish clergy, comes to Jesus at night and meet him on one of the roofs, wanted to get to know who he is, and has this conversation. In it, Jesus, there's a famous line that Jesus says, if you were not born of water and fire, of course, it's going to skip my mind now.
Unless you're born of water
from born, you won't be, in the kingdom of God.
You must be born again.
Mm-hmm. So those first two Sundays are dedicated, like I said, to St. Thomas and the myrrh-bearing women. But why those 2 Sundays are dedicated to these people? One of the explanations is that the church always, anytime there is and I've said that before, anytime there is a major feast of Christ or the Theotokos, the next day, usually, there is a commemoration to the people very much involved with that feast. So, the feast of the Nativity, the birthday of the Virgin Mary on September 8th, on the 9th, we celebrate, there's a feast for whom? For Saints Joachim and Anna, her parents. The feast of the Nativity of Christ, Christmas, on December 25th. The next day, on December 26th, who do we celebrate? There is a synaxis, there is a feast also to commemorate who? The Virgin Mary and Joseph. And then a couple of days later, we have we commemorate the children who Herod killed, all the boys that Herod killed. On the Feast of the Annunciation, on March 25th, who do we celebrate on March 26th? There's a feast for Archangel Michael. Archangel Gabriel. So we see that in all the major feasts. So for Pascha, for Easter, and it is called, as it's referred to in our hymnography, in the chant, that it is the Feast of Feasts, Eid al-Ayat. That's how it's referred to. That's the Feast of Feasts. This is the feast that gives meaning to all the other feasts. And without this feast, all the other ones basically not that important. So the number one and the Feast of Feasts is the Feast of Pascha. So it is, that's why we celebrate 40 days after that, concerning, keep celebrating Pascha for 40 days. And the first two Sundays are, we celebrated in them the people who were directly involved in this. So the first Sunday, it's a major event that took place with what Thomas did, and I spoke about it in my sermon, about how he's like, well, I need to see him. I need to see him. I cannot just and I need to see, like Deacon is pointing out, like, I need to see the wounds. I want to see him. I want to believe, of course he wants to, because why would he miss that? Why would he not care of seeing the guy who he spent 3 years with, and he saw him, doing all these miracles, and that who's still, in a way, still struggling probably to get to accept that idea that he is going to be killed and die for and then 3 days later he will be raised from the dead. So of course, Thomas wanted, to see that. So it's a major event in the church, the story of Thomas, and also because he said, what is this? What is his famous line when he saw Christ and realized he is Christ? What did he say? My Lord and my God. That is one of the very few, actually, the only place that there's this kind of like acknowledgement in a way that not just you're my Lord, you're not just like the Messiah, but now you're the Lord, but also God. That's like a very blunt, very strict, very direct proclamation that Jesus, not just a Messiah that people might think he is, like a prophet or a special prophet or a special person or a special angel. No, it's actually the God, the Messiah, but the God too. So that's why it's important to commemorate Thomas. And the next Sunday, of course, the second Sunday, it is the myrrh-bearing women who played a huge role. And of course, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, who played a major role after the resurrection, or after the burial of Christ, or after the crucifixion of Christ, because the myrrh-bearing women went there to check the body, but then they found the tomb empty, and they proclaimed it. They're the ones who were the first apostles, the first disciples, to proclaim it. And because of Joseph and Nicodemus, that they went to Pilate and dared to ask him to take the body off the cross. And such a, like I said, I mentioned last week, and Deacon mentioned in his sermon, that's something very bold to do, what the myrrh-bearing women did, and also Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus did. And that's why the church focuses on the role of these people, what they've done, that they had, the role of what they've done right after, or related to the resurrection. Then after, any questions for these?
Father, I have a question, more or less a question and a comment. The disciples, when Jesus appeared to them, he showed them his wounds. Otherwise, they would be doubters too, in a sense. We don't know, where they stand. He finally, in the later, he denied them 3 times. So, so you tapped onto that, but do you think, is it fair, just to call Thomas the doubter, among them all, just all of us, in a sense, we are,
and that was my point in my sermon on Sunday.
Yes.
What happened? You didn't? Okay, now
No,
I'm going to. No. But that was the point that I made on the sermon on Sunday, that we do push for, like, or it's known as like, oh, Thomas the doubter, Thomas the one who doubted. And actually, like, and I also said in the sermon, we called somebody, like, if you don't believe me, if like Deacon, I'm saying something and Deacon is not believing me, I'd be like, why Tuma? Why Thomas? Why are you not believing me? You call him, right? You call the person Tuma, like, oh, you're like Tuma. you're doubting. So they all doubted. And it's in a way, we are, like you said, Deacon, we're not, we're labeling him as a doubt, as if he's the only doubter, the one who doubted. But they all doubted, all of them. If they didn't doubt, they would have, they would have been there for him, right on the cross. Don't leave him by himself. The fact that Peter denied him, that means he doubted, right? Why would he deny him if he did not really know that he was or he was not fully accepting that he is the Son of God, he is the Messiah? So you are absolutely right.
But why did Jesus reveal himself to the 11 but not to Thomas? And that's where more or less I'm concentrating on.
Yeah, I've read multiple things like why is it? Where was Thomas? Do we know? There are a lot of saints from the 4th century, 5th century, St. John Chrysostom, St. Theophylact, multiple, St. Basil the Great, multiple saints. Because we have a lot of commentaries on, from these saints on the Gospels. I mean, you can find literally books of St. John Chrysostom, sermons on each verse of the verses of all the Gospels. Like, you'll have huge amounts of books on these. And they all kind of agree that no one knows exactly why. It was never mentioned anywhere around the time of the Gospels, like why Thomas was not there. But they all agree that somehow there was a divine intervention, a divine يعني تدبير إلهي, a divine, what would be تدبير? What's the word in English? Providence, I think that's the word, a divine providence, that somehow God wanted that to happen, wanted in a way Thomas to be away, got him busy with something, for him to come back, and then he can do that. Then he can show him, and then Thomas will come back and say, oh, I missed it. Let me, they say it's some kind of a divine providence that Thomas happened that he's not there. And when he came back and learned about the story, then, well, I want to see him then. Like, what do you mean you all got to see him? All the other 10 got to see, because Judas is dead by now. So like, oh, you 10, saw him, and how about me? And not only the 10, don't forget, you have the myrrh-bearing women and multiple other disciples. I mean, and that's something on the side to keep in mind, that Jesus did not only travel and walked and worked with just the 12 apostles, most likely with many more other people, including the myrrh-bearing women already, and many other disciples. The focus in the church, in the 4 Gospels, that we focus on the 12, because the number 12 is very significant for us, because they represent, number 12 represent the 12 kingdoms of Israel. So all of them doubted. It happened that there was this divine providence that Thomas was not there. Some people say he was busy back to work, but, he was working, he was whatever, doing something, but we just don't know. Except, like I said, the saints, some of the commentators, like saints who commented on Gospels, like St. John Chrysostom, Theophylact, St. John of Damascus, other saints, that they all agree that it was some kind of a divine intervention, divine providence, that Thomas wasn't there, and it worked out well, because then he'll come, and then Jesus appears again, and he proclaims that. So it's also a double, because how many, because Jesus appeared not only once, he appeared how many times after he resurrected?
Multiple times.
3, 4 times.
Twice.
How many times Jesus appeared after his resurrection, before his ascension? After the resurrection, before the ascension? I've said it once before.
7 times.
Or how many?
11 times.
You know why 11?
11 times.
The number of the disciples.
That's how many we have. That's why we have the 11 Gospels in Orthros and Matins.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And a half.
So the 11 Gospels that we have in Orthros, they're based on the 11 accounts of Jesus appearing or interacting with his disciples after his resurrection. That's why we have 11 Gospels, 11 Gospel readings. And I know last week Jeff brought a very good point. Like, what do you mean 11 Gospels? 11 passages speaking about Jesus after the resurrection, before his ascension. So it needed that time, those 2 times, first for the disciples, second week and a week later for St. Thomas. So now they're like, for sure they know it's Christ. And somehow he did not stay with them, because it would say that he would appear to them. So he did not just stayed with them 24/7. Somehow Christ was somewhere, something, we don't know how, before he ascended in his body to heaven. So those particulars appear, the first 2 appearances of the first time for the disciples on Sunday, of the day of resurrection, and then the following week to Thomas, just to kind of seal the deal that he is Christ. So next time when they see him walking from far, on the water, or meeting with other people, like, oh, that's Christ. So we know now, well, we already saw him a couple times before, and we knew exactly who he is. We know that for sure that's Jesus. So those 2, any questions before that? Zabia, I feel like you have a question. Yes.
Wasn't Thomas like he was away in some country when Jesus?
Well, bravo, that's a good point. In India, he's the patron saint,
right, in India.
of India. But we're sure that he started the preaching after his encounter with Christ. So some people actually, Zabia, say, well, he already started preaching about him. He was away and then he came back. Maybe, but we know for sure that after the resurrection, for sure, there are a lot of writings outside the Gospels that talk about him going to India. And that's why even till today, the Malankara Church, the Indian Orthodox Church in India, it's the patron saint of it is St. Thomas. Like us, the Antiochians, St. Peter and Paul. Like the Patriarchate of Constantinople, Istanbul, it's St. Andrew. Rome, St. Peter by himself, because after he started in Antioch, he went to Rome. So, but we don't know this 1 week period between the resurrection and the first time Thomas seen him, this 1 week, where was Thomas? There are assumptions here and there, like I said, but no one knows for sure. We don't have this good argument where he is, except that it was a divine providence. That's what happened. So, any other questions, comments, complaints? No, it's good. It's good. After we have few.
Sorry, Father. What's the 11 appearance to Jesus?
So,
would you name them, please?
Well, hopefully I can remember them.
Yes.
I have to open. I can.
Like, we know some of them.
Okay. So, of course, the day of the resurrection. Then
Right.
for the people in Emmaus, the 2 students of Emmaus. Then the Thomas one. Then when he told them to when they had is it this side or that, to throw the nets, they were throwing it and they're like, no, throw
Yes.
it on the other side. I'm trying to run, but because there are 11 hymns related to this,
And to the ladies of
and the myrrh-bearing women too. So the myrrh-bearing women, when Mary Magdalene saw him in the morning, right?
right.
She told him Rabboni, master, or thinking that he's the gardener. That's another one. Then when he saw them all, in the upper room, so that's 5.
Ali.
Like I said, the appearance to Peter, because he also appeared to Peter after he appeared to the myrrh-bearing women, because the myrrh-bearing women went and saw, they left. Then Peter runs with him in St. John the Theologian, and then he sees Peter, and then they come back. So I just have to remember all the 11 hymns. Do I have a book here? I can definitely send you these.
And also when they were in the boat and he walked on water and asked Peter to come meet him.
That's another one. That's yes. That's
That's after the resurrection. I thought that's before.
There is one that he was in the
miracle of John walking on water. That's before.
Hold on.
Oh,
Give me
Peter.
2 seconds and I'll bring
Peter.
that. Hold on.
Actually, I looked it up in Google, but they have different numbers. Like 4 times, 11 times, 12 times.
How many times they say? Oh, they have different numbers.
Different times. So I said, forget Google.
Forget Google. Sometimes Google is Google. Okay.
Wasn't there a time he shared the fish meal by lake?
What is it, Sam?
Yeah, where he said
Wasn't
he
there a
wanted
time
to
he
eat. He
shared the
said,
meal
"Do you
of
have
fish by the water?
food?"
So that's the one when he tossed, he told them to toss the, from the other side. That's what the him. So
No, but Father, he appeared to them and he gave them a fish he was cooking, and when Peter jumped into the water, went in there,
and put it. Well, I'm like, look,
he had this fish barbecuing.
So here's the first appearance. It's from the account of the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 28. He tells them to go meet him in Galilee, and it's in chapter 28, verse 16, the first verse. To go meet him in Galilee. He appeared, Jesus appeared to them and tell them to go meet him in Galilee. And then they doubted him. Also, they kept doubting him. And then he gives them the power to baptize people in the name of the Father and Son. And then, of course, I gave you all power from heaven and earth. That's the first, that's one of the accounts. They're not in order the way they put them in the gospel. But anyway, the second account, it says, when the myrrh-bearing woman went to the tomb and asking for Jesus. The third one is from Mark, talking about the account from chapter 16. And then he also talked about the women, and then to Mary Magdalene, appearing to Mary Magdalene. Number 11, you know what? I'll tell you what I misinformed you with the number 11. I don't, those 11 accounts are the 11 accounts of the Gospels talking about the resurrection. So some of them are a duplicate, because I'm looking now at the 3 and 4. They're basically the same. The third gospel and the fourth gospel is the same, just one in Mark's language and the other one is in Luke's language. So that means that's not 11 total then, because the third gospel and the fourth gospel, it's basically the same. It's just from different accounts, from a different storyteller. One from Mark, one from Luke. The fifth one is about Cleopa, the Emmaus, the road to Emmaus. The sixth gospel, it's Thomas. Seventh gospel, it's about Peter.
I think it's a 12, Father.
I don't know. It's even here.
It's a 12 appearance, I think.
This one, because they're speaking, there are 11 accounts, but some of them are duplicates. The eighth one is when he appeared to Mary Magdalene. The ninth one is it's exactly like the seventh one. So that's instead of 11 now.
I think you mentioned, Father, Mary Magdalene under Luke or Mark.
Father?
Yes.
Can I, they say the first one is Sunday morning to Mary Magdalene, John 20:11. The second is the woman returning from the sepulchre in Matthew 28:9. appearance to Peter recorded in Luke 24:34. On the road to Amwas, Luke 24:13.
12. Okay, or 12. Yeah, or 13.
Okay, Sunday evening without Thomas on John 20:19. 1 week later, John 20, at the time, this time Thomas is present. The 7th is the 3 weeks later to the disciples on the shores of Galilee. The 8th is to the 11th on the mountain of Galilee as Jesus has appointed.
Yes, that's from Matthew. Matthew
Yes,
28.
and Matthew 28. The 9th is more than 500 brethren gathered in Galilee. That's in 1 Corinthians 15:6. The 10th is James at close of 40 days. And the 11th is his ascension, Luke 24:50.
But I
And
don't know the James one.
the James one is at close of 40 days. No other details are added. The thought is likely James, the writer of the epistle, rather than James, the son of Zebedee.
So
in
they're
Act
relying
1.
on the epistle, not the gospel.
This one is.
How many total with you? Like
I have 12, and the last one is on the road to Damascus when he appeared to Saul.
Yeah, but when he appeared to Saul, that's after the ascension.
Okay,
But still, I mean, after the resurrection.
right.
Okay.
So 11 before. That's true then.
11 before and 1 after the ascension.
I thought the appearance to Saul was a voice.
Well, but I mean, it's a voice, but like, well, it's a voice, but also a light, because what happened to Paul? He couldn't see, right? He was blinded.
Right.
So he was blinded, and that's why he couldn't see. So 11, 12, 10, around that number, I guess. I also thought in mind was like just 11 because of the accounts, but some of them are duplicates. Salim, you had your hand up.
Can we get what Deacon and yourself mentioned in an email?
I'm literally, it's the gospel book, which, I mean, of course, it's available in English, but it's upstairs in the altar. Those at the end of this book, this is the book.
Okay, I'll look it up.
This one, it tells you all the gospel reading for each day of the week.
Okay.
For the major feast, and there's a section about those 11 gospels.
Okay.
11 accounts. But Deacon, I don't know whichever website he probably looked it up.
I'll put it up.
Or put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, can you?
Sure.
Put it in the chat. So to continue, well, I think he already did, or somebody put something in the chat. Oh, okay. He just copy pasted it. Sure. Thank you, Deacon. So those next Sundays now, like this coming Sunday, the following Sunday, and the following Sunday, do we have an idea what are these? Who do we commemorate, or who do we talk about? Any idea who this coming Sunday we're going to talk about?
The Samaritan woman or the paralytic?
Paralytic. Al-Mukhalla'. So this coming Sunday, we're going to talk, you'll hear about the paralytic from the Gospel of John, chapter 5, 1:15, I think, 1:16, 1:15. And it's the paralytic, if you remember, from the Bethesda, the lake, and how he was laying there for how many years? 38 years waiting for somebody to push him in the water, right? What's the next Sunday? I'm just going to go through in general and then go back and talk a little bit about it. What's the next one? The 22nd, on May 22nd. This is now we're talking the fourth Sunday of Lent, of Pasca, after Pasca.
That was that one, the Samaritan woman.
It's the Samaritan woman, Al-Mar'a Samariyya. What happened? The one, she was on the well, right? Al-Bir, and she's, and Jesus shows up there and is like, hey, can I have something to drink? And she's like, whoa, since when a Jew talks to us? And on top of that, talks with a woman in general. And then he says, what did he tell her? One of the first major and important sentences.
If
Women,
you knew who was
if you knew-
asking, you would ask him for
For
give you
water.
water of life.
Okay. And then the following Sunday,
The blind man.
the blind man. So paralytic. After, of course, Thomas Sunday, Mary-bearing Sunday, of course, those because related directly to the resurrection. But the other 3 Sundays, the paralytic, the Samaritan woman, the Mukhalla, Ahad al-Samariya, and the blind man, Al-A'ma, Ahad al-A'ma. And there's a reason why the church put them there. There's a reason. It wasn't just randomly, just like, oh, let's read this. First, who do we read during Lent? Who do we read from the Gospels during Lent on Sundays? بالصيام لمين بنقرا الاناجيل اللي بنقريهم؟
Matthew,
Luke,
Luke. Mark.
Mark. And why do we say Mark? Remember when we said why Mark? Is the shortest, the most concised, and that's the one taught to all the catechumens, all the ones that they're interested in learning about Christianity and they wanted to become Christians. So the church was like, okay, here's your concise, well, short written, tells you what you need, the major points we're going to read before Pasca, during Lent. Who do we read from on Pasca, on Easter, and going forward for the 40 days, 50 days?
John,
John. Why John?
لأن أطول شيء.
No. No, not because it's the longest. It's a higher degree.
Probably is the most accurate and the most precise one.
So
He's the deepest.
Yeah.
I would say the deepest, yes, like more theology. Like, what is the first verse that we read?
in the beginning.
Word.
كانت الكلمة
beginning.
والكلمة
Right.
كانت عند الله صارت.
Al-kalima kan Allah, in the beginning, the word was, God, and the God was in the word, and the word was in God, and the word is God, and all of these like languages, like, whoa. So it was like, okay, you got your Orthodoxy or Christianity 101 before Lent. You get baptized, on Holy Saturday, on Great Saturday. And then what do you do after this? Now you learn the basics, and you got baptized, you got the Holy Spirit. And you get baptized. And after that, here, John to you now. John is like more in depth, more theological. That's why he's depicted in what? What is the symbol of St. John? The theologian. Every one of the one of the apostles has a symbol.
Eagle.
He's an eagle, Nisr. Why? It's like high theology. Just like high talk about divinity of Christ. This whole thing about the divinity of Christ and like he's God and all of this. The long and first gospel during Holy Thursday. It's all about God, my Father is, in me, and I'm in the Father, and who sees me sees the Father, and and all of these things, right? So it's very high theology, and that's why catechumens would never get St. John in the beginning. They have to first learn about him, learn that he's the Messiah, learn that he's, the guy who's coming to save. Look what happened to him, those things. And then with John, after they get baptized, boom, we're reading about this high theology, and the people will read high theology. Yes, Deacon.
Could it be, Father, because he was writing not to the Jews, number one, and then he is the only one that was left way long to be a witness for what he saw Christ did. So he's a more Protestant in his writing and being eyewitness.
So definitely the first point, Deacon, because he's the one who definitely wrote it for already Christians.
Right.
Like not like the others to the Jews or to the Gentiles or all the world, like in general. The second point, maybe I'd never heard about the second point. Like maybe if because but other people wrote gospels too. Even around his time and after him, and they still wrote gospels. I mean, he's the youngest one among them when he was around Jesus, so that's why he wrote it last. And he was, he lived, he was 104 or 103,
Right.
before he died.
The
So
commentary I read is that God left him, because there was a lot of bid'ah,
heresies.
heresies in the church, and it seems like he trusted him with his mom. Okay, first of all, and then he trusted him. He kept him for later on to be an eyewitness to defeat those heresies that they came, and he's the eyewitness. So that's more or less in summary.
I never heard that from like an Orthodox commentary, at least to my knowledge, but that can be a great possibility. Maybe. And there's nothing wrong with it. That might be it might be that's what the case is. We know for sure, like you said, your first point, Deacon, that he wrote it explicitly for the Christians. So it was not a book to be given like in our days now to a Muslim. Like if a Muslim interested in Orthodoxy, that's not the that's just like it just you don't give it to Muslim. It's like somebody who already knows. Okay.
Thank you.
So we read then from all these, the paralytic, the Samaritan woman, and the
Blind man.
paralytic, the blind man. They're all these stories are from St. John, the Gospel of St. John. What is the common thing? There is one thing that is common among all these three.
The water.
Yeah, water. Why water? Lesh tamay.
Purification.
Purification. Okay, but why? What is? Let's look at all three of them. Paralytic. Where was he? Right next to what?
Pool of Bethesda.
Right.
Bethesda pool.
Right beside the pool. Water, waiting for the water to heal him. Right. Right. The water is like we drink, like the water. Water we drink. Samaritan woman. Where was she? Around what?
Well.
The well. And she's like, water. And Jesus tells her, well, if you don't, if you know who I am, you're going to ask for my water, my kind of water. With the blind man, what did Jesus do for the blind man?
He spit and
right, but like he needed the water to make the clay, right?
right.
So all these three have, in common what? Water. But also, what happened on Holy Saturday for all these catechumens? What happened to them on Holy Saturday? They all
get baptized.
Baptism.
Right? They all get their baptism in the water, renewal, that they're dead in Christ. They're dead, and then they rise with Christ. And then the point is, the whole theme of this, that who is the real water for us all? Like the one we really need to eat from or drink from so we don't get thirsty, like if we eat from other things.
From the cup of life.
Jesus Christ.
Communion. Yeah, Jesus.
So the point is, like the church thought, like, okay, it's baptism. We're preparing these catechumens. We're baptizing them in water. And here are the accounts in the Gospel of St. John, while learning about Christ on a higher theological aspect. Here's the stories about things related to water, that at the end of the day, yes, we need water to drink. Yes, the paralytic needed water to jump into. The Samaritan, of course, needed water to drink. The blind man needed, Christ made the clay, from water. But at the end of the day, to say that who is the real water, the perfect water, the one that we drink from, we should drink once we drink from, and we live in, like we keep drinking him as, like water, is Jesus Christ. But what does it mean, like to drink water, like to drink Jesus as water, living the life that he tells us? So the water is to love, to sacrifice, to forgive, to pray, to fast, give alms, and all of these things that
Dive in his word.
Yeah. So just the church thought of the theme of water, that's how we survive. That's how we never get thirsty. That's why we always have Jesus in us if we do these things.
Father, one question. When you asked a question, the only thing that came to my mind wasn't the water, is they have to believe in order for them to be healed. So it's I thought that would have been the theme between all three of them.
So the belief part, sure, but like there is a much more focus on it is the water theme.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see that in the hymnography. You'll see that in the writings and explanations, the commentaries. I mean, of course, when you talk about the paralytic, what did he tell him? He doesn't tell him, he says, do you want to be healed? And then he's like, okay, pick up your pallet and stand. And the guy, if he didn't believe, he would have says like, what are you saying? I'm not standing. Right? He didn't tell him like somehow like showed him the problem. No, he just told him, pick up your pallet and stand up. And the guy was like, okay, let me stand up. So he definitely needed the belief. In order, for God to work in him. But the most important theme, the theme of all of them is the water. That Jesus Christ is the water. And then here, just to throw my last thing about this, there is a feast that the church, a lot of people in the church not very, very aware of it. It happens 25 days before Pasca and 25 days after Pasca and 25 days before Pentecost.
At Pentecost.
Literally, there's a feast. There's a feast in the church that's called mid-Pentecost, Intisaf al-Eid, Intisaf al-Ansara. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Mid-Pentecost, literally, there's a feast called mid-Pentecost, and it's Sonia's name day. My daughters, we chose that feast to be Sonia's name day because Sonia means Sophia, wisdom. And Noor, her middle name is Noor, which means light. So it is the feast. The church celebrates this feast. It's actually next Wednesday. If I wasn't going on vacation, if I wasn't going away, I would have had liturgy that on Wednesday night or Wednesday morning or Tuesday night, whatever. But the point is that's mid-Pentecost. It is the middle day. If you count 25 days after Pascha, this is the day. And from that day to Pentecost is 25 days. And it relates both things. It relates the light of the resurrection with the wisdom of Pentecost. The light of the resurrection and the wisdom of Pentecost. Because what happened on Pentecost?
The Holy Spirit
came upon the disciples and all of this, right? Right?
Wisdom.
Right? So it's the feast, and that's why the hymn actually for mid-Pentecost, it says, in the midst of this feast, O Savior, give thou my thirsty soul to drink from the water of the true worship. For thou didst call out to all, saying, whosoever is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Wherefore, O... one second. See, a lot of times I have to sing the hymn in order for me to remember the words. In the midst of this feast, O Savior, give thou my thirsty soul to drink of the waters of true worship. For thou didst call out to all, saying, whosoever is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Wherefore, O Christ our God, fountain of life, glory to thee. See, the word, water, fountain, all of this. بالعربي في انتصاف العيد اسقي نفس العطشة من مياه العبادة الحسنة أيها المخلص لأنك هتفت نحو الكل قائلا من كان عطشانا فليأتي إلي what would you think the word be? يشرب يشرب right فيا ينبوع الحياة أيها المسيح الإله المجد لك. So this whole hymnography, those 50 days, you're going to hear a lot about mai, or as people in my hometown say, muay, water. And that's the common theme. And then, of course, after the blind man, the Thursday after the Sunday of blind man, what happened?
Ascension.
Ascension. And the day before, Wednesday before that, the leave taking, وداع الفصح, the leave taking of Easter, of Pasca, will be 40 days. And then we have Ascension, the Sunday of the Fathers, and then Pentecost as part of the 50 days, basically. The 40 days and then 10 days of celebration leading to Pentecost. But those are the Sundays. The Sundays, Palm Sunday, Mare-bearing Sunday. Then we have the paralytic, the Samaritan, and the blind man. And those, the whole theme of them, the main focus is water. God being like we cannot live without water for maybe 3 days, I think. Whatever our bodies cannot handle, not having water, maybe 3 days or 4, something like this. We cannot live without Christ. And that's the whole theme about this period. Any questions? This is very general things. God willing, on Sunday I'll speak more, about the paralytic, more things about the paralytic. Of course, deacon will be part of the belief part. So God can do things. And who initiated anyway? Who initiated the paralytic in the paralytic story? Who initiated the talk? Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just not the paralytic who came to Jesus. Actually, Jesus who came to him and initiated the conversation. So the whole point of that gospel, at least, well, other than the theme that relates it to other ones, but in particular this one, the multiple points about him, that Christ is always the initiator. He's always there for us. But it takes us to believe, to act on it. I always say, Christ is the one hand, and we need the other hand. We need to be the other hand. I think somebody in the parking lot is trying to go on a bike or like a motorcycle or something going around. Sorry, that's why I hear they're just going the vim thing. Anyway, any questions about this whole thing here?
I have one little one. It's really not that important. How did we get the Unsura from Pentecost? Pentecost have something to do with the number 50. And what does Unsura mean?
Sam, thank you for waking up something in me like I should not take things for granted. Ansara, I'm pretty sure it's either Hebrew. Let me see.
Is it related to the olive press being in Gethsemane?
I don't.
Or maybe unsur, maybe it's the main
element.
Element of the.
No, I don't. I think
I never thought about it, to be honest.
Hold on.
العنصر بنروح على حرش ثابت وبنعمل عنصر.
One second.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's a good
please,
question.
like I said,
when you go to church in English, you go to church in Arabic, and these words come out, and you don't know which one is which, and you finally say, "I'm going to look it up," and then you find out Unsara is the Pentecost, and so how is it related? And
yes.
I mean, I go to a church that's all English, and I have to look up almost every word.
And I should know that, and thank you for giving me the chance to just look it up in. Here we go. 1 second. Okay. Do you wanna know? Al-Ansara is a Hebrew word. The origin of this word is asar. Maybe it's a Jewish.
Yes.
Hold on. And waminha, and from it, the word asarit, that the word ansara came from. Asar means a group, ijtama أو جمع, a multitude. So إذ كان اليهود يجتمعون ويعيدون. So the Jews were get together and they feast. كما تعني منع أو امتناع. But also means in Hebrew منع أو امتنع, stopping, like منع. What would be منع? Forbidding, because they don't work on that day because it's a day for the Lord. But also the feast of Ansara for the Jews is the commemoration of the 10 tablets delivered to Moses.
Yeah.
So that's,
I guess mana means abstain.
abstaining, yes, abstaining from work. Yes, that's much better translation. Abstaining. So let's see other, what other I want to look at. Yes. So Ansara, yes, that's another source. It says the same thing. It is a Hebrew word that means ijtima' or mahfal, multitude, like a gathering. And also it points out to the 50th, the Eid al-Khamsin al-Yahudi. Of course, that's the Pentecost, Bilyunene in Greek. And also in this source, that's at least one of the first sources that I found, it's a Coptic one, that it says this is also this feast is Bakurat Hisad al-Hanta, ay Itmam Hisad al-Sha'ir. It's the day where they gather the wheat.
That's the original meaning for Pentecost under the Jewish religion, right?
And it's, yes, and it says that this is when they commemorated the tablets, God given the tablets.
Tabernacle.
The tablets, yeah.
And they call it the Whit Sunday.
So okay, now we know what Ansara means. It means gathering.
Thank you.
اجتماع أو محفل, gathering, coming together. See?
I was not kidding ابونا. عيد العنصرة بلبنان بتروحوا على الحرش وبتلاقي العيال هيك وعم بياكلوا. Yeah, that was 40 years ago.
In which area?
بسنين.
Wow, okay, so in Beirut, more of like.
Yeah, بيروت. بيطلعوا العالم بعيد العنصرة دائما اللي بيحطوا على زيق وبلشوا على النار gathering people and they eat together. Every Eid Ansara, that's what I do.
Never
that's
had
what
that
we
in
did.
my
I
life.
mean.
But actually, in reality, the 50 year in the Jewish tradition, if they buy a land from you or lease a place from you, on the 50th year, they must return it to its original owner after 50 years of purchase, and that's what they refer to on the 50th year.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I would know better with this. Interesting.
So they never own anything.
Yeah.
They just
you can own, but you cannot rent more than 50 years. Is that what you say?
Correct.
Oh.
I see. Interesting. What do? You go 1 year somewhere else and then you come back to the same place? I don't know. Anyway, other
actually, I'm reading a book about rabbinic,
Actually, Father, the Pentecost, it comes from, it's very close to the Greek word.
Well, بس عنصرة. We're looking at the word عنصرة because بالعربي.
عنصرة means اجتماع.
بالعربي, anyway, our books are called the book that we use for the period after Pasca, till Pentecost. It's called the Pentecostarion, the 50th. Al-bint, and bil-Arabi, in Arabic, they literally wrote it like they, what you call it? Like, how do you say this? Like Bindikistari, like they, I can't remember now the verb.
بندقسطين.
You can lie to us, Father. It's okay. We wouldn't know. No, I'm just kidding.
But like Deacon, we couldn't see the book because you have the background thing behind you. So we can only see your face and body. Anything besides
Halo.
your body, we can't see it. We can't. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah, you barely. I mean, I can tell there's the word, the letter R, but you have to take the background from behind.
It's refuting the rabbinic objections. So, yeah, it's interesting book.
Very nice.
كان يدعى عيد الأسابيع بالقديم أبونا.
Because that's the what? How many weeks? 7 weeks. 7 weeks basically. It's the feast of 7 weeks, because 7 times 7, 49, and the Sunday after. This is the 50th day. What else? I love these questions. Now it's like, oh, answer finally gathering.
Thank you.
Very welcome, Sam.
I wasn't looking for a long answer, but this is good.
Sure, sometimes small answer is much better.
That's how we learn from each other.
Yes.
Bravo. What else? Anything else? Any other business?
You asked one time if we like to do Bible study on these meetings. I'd like to do Bible study.
So we will have, so next week, we can still meet on, so the next 2 Thursdays, I'm not going to be around. I'm not going to be here. I leave the country on Tuesday, God willing, and come back. So I leave the 17th, come back the 27th. So there are 2 Thursdays, which Deacon can, God bless him. There are 2 things I would still want to run. It's Ascension and Pentecost, the Feast of Ascension. So that's something that can be done next Thursday. And then the following Thursday, I think we can take a break and then really start thinking because we would then cover all the major stuff, basically. All the, like we focused and we covered Hopko's, Father Hopko's books, the first 2 books, which they're very, very important. The other 2 books they're important, but that's something you can read on your own, like historical things. There's no reason for us to go like what happened in the 20th century, what happened in the 19th century, like events and things. Some of them even were covered with the other stuff. And the 4th one is talking about sacraments and things like what is marriage, what is confession, what is forgiveness, and all of these things. We've been talking about them in church through sermons and stuff. So we can take a break the following, not the next Thursday, the following Thursday, and then maybe we can start, go back to Bible study. Do we need to do it every week? I have no problem. If you want to do it every week, I would love to do that, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And then we can pick either. Did you do the Gospels, the other Gospels, or Deacon was your first one, Gospel of John?
Just John.
Yes, John.
Mainly, you'll see all the time, like the basic thing to start a Bible study, you start with the Gospel of Mark. The same thing as the practice of catechumens.
I think Father, he was testing my knowledge. That's why he told me to start with John.
John, yeah, it's like, have you done any Bible studies about, any of them? Like, no, start with the hard one. Boom, like, yallah, right? Start with the big one.
Yeah. I just was following orders, Father.
Oh, no,
that was big.
I'm not saying
That was a
anything.
big long one.
Yeah, but like it's tough to start with it. Well, so then we can definitely start with the Gospel of Mark, the short one, the concise one, the one that we believe in the church that most likely he's the first one to be written. And Matthew and Luke built their Gospels on his. So like literally, they call the synoptics, the ones that kind of match. And there are many books that you can buy or get or read or find online as PDFs. They show you chapter by chapter, verse by verse, how these 3 Gospels go together. and then Matthew, because he was one of the 12. Then he's like basically, oh, okay, somebody did it before me. I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel, so I'll just build upon this. So he took the Gospel of Mark and added the things that he thought he needs to add, at least to be a more convincing argument, to give more convincing argument to the Jews, because that was his audience. So we can do that if you guys want to, if you're open to the idea.
I'm only one vote.
It's a good.
No, I'm with you, Sam.
I think because with the ladies, they're learning a lot about saints. That's beautiful. Then the ladies can tell their husbands, or some of we have half of them here anyway. So at least there's a full. Oh, Rose showed up. I'm just kidding. Rose, you're always in the bathroom. What are you?
I'm always in the bathroom and I never left. I'm just trying to listen.
I'm joking.
Thank you, Abuna. Allah ya'tik al-afiyah.
But we can definitely do that. Any other? Voice it out. If you tell me like, oh, I'm done with this, I don't want to do any of this. Fine. I will still do something, but you don't need to feel like, oh, I have to show up to this.
We can always rotate.
Father, something that is not readily available is maybe the journey of Paul, right? How the first church began.
So Acts of the Apostles?
Yeah. Because it teaches about the life of the church. Clearly I can read about it if I want to.
No, I'm not saying, it's all, there's no wrong answers here. There's no wrong, it's like, we can, but I was thinking if we do the Gospels first, and then we can jump to the Acts of the Apostles, and then at some point we can do, we're not talking all of this is like in 1 year thing, but like, then we can discuss the epistles, go through the epistles maybe, at least the main epistles, like the Roman one, the Hebrew, the Corinthians one. You know what I mean? Like the kind of like the highlights of each. Again, Nicolette, there's no wrong answer. It's like, if there's a more, the vote is like to do a Bible study on the Acts of the Apostles, that the early, basically the church right after the ascension. Of course.
Actually, Father, if we go through Acts, that's everything that they've done. So after that, it covers everything.
Again, there's no wrong answer. Nothing like, it's still a Bible study. You're studying a book in the Bible. You want to do the Acts of the Apostles? Fine. My natural reaction is to do Mark, because that's the basic.
The Gospel of Mark is interesting. Yes.
To learn more about like how the church, and why did he say this word, not that word? But I'm honestly fine.
No. I'm with you on Mark. We want to start with Mark, and then we can go to the epistles after that. That's fine.
And how about this? And honestly, I don't want like, oh well, the priest said that, or I'm really have no issue whatsoever about the Acts of the Apostles. How many you want? First, any other suggestions? We have on the table Mark, or
Mark is a
evangelist
for Mark,
and the Acts of the Apostles. I will raise my hand for both, honestly. Like I don't mind. So Acts of the Apostles.
Just a question.
Hey,
how many weeks for each do you think? How many meetings?
Well, I'll have to sit down. So I have a couple reasons, but I don't know. That's why I need to sit down. I don't have that prepared. That's why I said we'll take a week, so I can at least think about like how long. So I assume, honestly, I don't know. I haven't done them before to tell you like, well, this one is going to take 3 sessions or 5 sessions, and the other one is going to take 15, which I don't think, none of them, because I don't want to do verse by verse, word by word. It's not like it's more of like a theme. So we can take chapter or every couple chapters and talk about
from experience, Father, some chapters takes about 2 sessions, and most of them they take only 1 session.
So that's why I'm saying like we have a big, I don't know, all of a sudden.
What is that?
A fly, like
You need to get your gun.
heavy ones. I don't know why, but anyway.
Okay, so how about the Book of Revelation? Should we go back to it?
Easy.
Where are you taking us, Walid?
And I'll tell you, honestly, I'm not. I know a lot of stuff on it, but it will be, believe me, I would like to participate in this more than to like contribute to it.
That would be
But
fun.
we're talking about like, no, Sam, you did not open a can of worms. This is all good. Actually, it's good worms. It's edible worms, actually. It's
Thank you, Abuna. Yeah, they're like gummies, gummy bears.
Father, there is from Oklahoma, Deacon, I forgot his name. He used to teach in the evangelical, and he's now Orthodox. It's been for a long time. I forgot his name. He sent me the study of Revelation. If you would like me to send you a copy, it's a PDF. If you want to go through it yourself first, and then see if you want to do it at a later part, I would be glad to.
I mean, I don't mind that. I don't mind that, and I can go through it and read it and all of this and learn more about it and all. But like, I just feel like I think it's a much bigger
Oh
job.
yeah, it's
Okay.
To start with them before like either the Gospels, the Epistles, the Acts of the Apostles.
All right, so let's do the Acts then.
Acts it is.
Okay.
Acts it is. I have no problem. Again, it's just there's no wrong answer. No, like, but hey.
Wow, it is big.
It is big. Hell, I have to kill it.
I think you're bothering it.
I think so. It's like it feels like what are you doing here? Like,
Make it your pet.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey Angela, he will only if you send him the leech.
There's a famous line for Saint Paisios. He's a newly saint that was canonized in the church, Saint Paisios, and the ladies have read.
Yeah, last week it was his. We were celebrating his name.
No, that's another one. That's an older.
That's the other Paisios.
The other
Paisios.
You know how many Nicholas we have and how many George we have and all of this? Same thing, same concept.
Okay.
Same concept. So Saint Paisios de Nou, who passed away in 94, 95? In the 90s. He passed away in the 90s. He departed in the 90s. He says, you either can choose, as humans, we can choose to be one of two things. A fly, the bene, or a bee. Exactly. Nahle.
I love this book.
And the difference between the nahle and
The fly goes to the shit, the bee goes to the flowers.
Did you use the S word like, on record, Angela? Did you use that like
The fly is a parasite, the bee is a producer.
And the thing is that the bee, nahle, it will look for the flower, for this one flower in the midst of all the trash.
An optimist. An optimist.
Well, but also looking for the good, like always looking for the good. Despite all the bad that can be around. And the fly, it's going to look for the trash, this one small piece of trash in the midst of a whole field of flowers. So he's saying, which one you want to be? You want to be the guy who's always going around and like pointing the bad things? Or you want to see the good? That doesn't mean like there's nothing wrong, but like you approach things with love and beauty. And beauty, what kind of, like with love, with forgiveness, with, always see the good in the person, not the bad.
Yeah.
I thought, Father, you were going with the study that they took bees to the moon, and because there is no gravity, they were not using their wings. They died. They couldn't even survive because that's not what they meant. They were born for.
I mean, I'm sure we can definitely build a whole theology on this.
Yes.
But Acts of the Apostles.
Interesting.
And I will.
I'm sorry, Father. The reason I had recommended, because I was following the order of books by Father Thomas Hopko, where we just did 2. The next volume was 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, and I thought that was going through the history of the church, which started with Paul.
Yeah, he goes with all of them to the 20th century, actually.
Yeah.
The 3rd book is about everything, and even in the first one, not just the Acts and a lot of other things. But it does focus basically on on the Acts. So I have no problems. No problem whatsoever. So I do want to, like, in the end, the way I like Acts of the Apostle or Bible studies, to look into themes, or like, so not like word by word, unless there is actually a one word like we really need to stop at, we really need to look into it and why it's used. But I don't want it more of a commentary more than like a theme, major events and things like this, what we really need to know about it. So
I think, Father, that's a good idea. You just hit it on the head. Like pride, like sin, like items like that. To open our spectrum. What it is and how we can avoid and how we can pursue a better life. I think
but in it
will be helpful.
Yeah, but in it, the Acts of the Apostles is like literally the history book. So we will have more of like, this is what happened. You know what I mean? Oh, he did this and that's what happened, and fled from here and jumped from here and ran to this place, and this guy met him the other place, and all of the, that's most of it. So which is fine, which is totally fine. That's very important.
Father, I want to ask a question, but I don't want the answer to be long.
Okay, can we maybe we should stop the recording?
Christ is risen from the dead, trampling death down, death by death, and upon this in the tombs, bestowing life.
Amen. So let me just set that, and then we can ask anything we want.